Fantasy Football Factory, Week 13. We got the King of the South, Mincy. We got Moody on the sticks. I am Stephen Che. We are brought to you, as always, by Draftkings. And Draftkings has a new way to play daily fantasy sports with the Pick 6 app. All new customers who play just $5 are going to get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Download the Draftkings Pick 6 app now. Use code FANTASY only on the Draftkings Pick 6 app. Super easy. Just pick at least two players. Choose they'll have more or less of a certain set. Will they have more or less than 49.5 yards rushing? Will they have more or less than 1.5 passing touchdowns? More or less than half an interception thrown? Lock them in and compete against others for a shot at huge cash prizes. Download the Draftkings Pick 6 app now with code FANTASY only at the Draftkings Pick 6 app. The crown is yours. So we obviously got to talk about big storylines coming out of this weekend. Obviously, Mincy's been lava hot with his bets, but the lead has got to be my guy, Saquon Barkley. People are in an uproar that I had him as in the top half of the league with fantasy running backs this year. Guys, how do we feel about Saquon? 302 yards, ripped off I think it was 70 and 72, so it was 270-plus yard rushing touchdowns this week. He is RB1 in all formats, surpassing Derrick. He even has more rushing yards than Derrick Henry at this point right now. How do we feel about my guy, Saquon Barkley?
Well, Steven, here's the thing. I say this with love to you, and I admire you because you always will make some hot takes, and you're not afraid to go out on a limb. And you went out on a limb on this one. You went out on a limb on some other ones that were right, though. People like your Marvin Harrison, things age well. So, you were obviously spectacularly wrong about this. He has 1,392 yards. He's on pace for 2,000 yards. The thing with Philly, I didn't know how Kellen Moore would do with the running game. And, man, he's done such a good job. They run 55%. They got a great offensive line. And, yeah, Saquon's having one of the best seasons of all time. And if you're going to be wrong, just might as well do it spectacularly, right?
Engagement Central. All the Eagles fans hate me, but that's okay. You make some, you miss some. We hit Amon St. Brown a couple years ago, wide receiver 13, when he was wide receiver 31. You miss some. Saquon RB, I think at 13, he's RB1. It happens. Interesting matchup this week. We got number 1 and number 2 leading rushers in the game. My RB1, Derrick Henry, is going to show out for me this Sunday. I'm looking forward to that matchup.
Moody, you got anything to add on the Barkley thing to Shay?
Barkley's been carrying me in 2 of my standard leagues, by the way. He's the reason I'm going to make the playoffs because the rest of my team is just injured from top to bottom. So Saquon has been my savior this year, and I tried to warn you, Che. It was the only thing that I gave you pushback on the entire season because I think you've done a hell of a job. But I tried to warn you that there was a bad take on Saquon. It was just the Giants were so bad, bro, changing the situation from New York to Philadelphia. We've just seen how much of a difference it has made. And then, of course, that guy's talented, man. Saquon Barkley is an absolute freak. He just couldn't show that off in New York because he was hit behind the line damn near every single time. And finally, he is getting to showcase his true talent.
Yeah. The thing that take was most built around was just his injury history. Like, the guy just didn't stay healthy. He's obviously, we're in week 13 right now, so 12 weeks he's been immaculate health, hasn't really missed time, and he's been showing out against a much better offensive line and team with the Eagles. So good on Saquon. I'd given up on this take once he passed the illustrious 1,005 rushing yard mark that I cherry picked my stat around. So once he got that, it was kind of curtains. So if he leads the league in rushing or becomes MVP, hats off to him.
Yeah. I'll say one other thing, too, on the props. His receiving yards are always like 14 or 15, and he goes way over in receiving every week, too, in the props on DraftKings. He had 47 this week, but it seems like they're setting that receiving line too low on the props.
Mincy, let's talk about you. You are the Stoolviver winner. You got a $25K free bet. What are you thinking about it this week?
All right, well, I'll make this quick on strategy for last week, but I went in and really had a strategy for the Big T thing because we flipped a coin to see who got first pick, and I studied everything, and the way we did it, we flipped a coin, and whoever got first pick in the noon games got second at 3 o'clock. I won the coin toss, and I deferred to 3 o'clock, Stephen, because when I went through it, I was fine with Montgomery or Gibbs against Indy. I was like neutral. And I was like, well, I can get one of the two. There were only 3 o'clock games, and Josh Jacobs was the only person I liked at 3 o'clock. So I was like, I'm gonna just when I deferred, I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna take Montgomery or Gibbs, and if it goes to 3:00, I'm getting Josh Jacobs, and he ended up having 3 touchdowns. The guy, what was interesting was the guy I was fading was Joe Mixon that I didn't want. He was off the 3-touchdown Dallas game. Tennessee has a good run D, and those games are kind of wonky a lot of times in that division. So I was actually out on Mixon. He was one of the guys I didn't want, and Big T took Mixon first. And I was between Montgomery and Gibbs. I took Montgomery. Gibbs scores first quarter, and I was like, crap. But, man, Montgomery, what a touchdown run. He spinned and fell on top of a Colts guy to get in the end zone in the second quarter. Mixon had like 30 yards rushing, and it didn't need to go to 3:00, but if it had, I would have won with Jacobs. So big win there. Shout out, I had David Njoku first week, Taysom Hill second week, James Conner, Joe Mixon, and then Montgomery, 5 weeks to get here. So now the debate is with a $25K free bet. It's a strategy debate because, I'm going to be real. I make a good living here, but I'm not rich. This is the biggest bet I've ever had. But you still can't be a bitch about it. I don't think you take Derrick Henry minus 200 here to win 12 or 13K. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. So the pricing comes out today for the Sunday games. This is going to be on the stream Sunday, so it's got to be the noon or 3:00 games. I'm flying back early from Memphis Sunday morning. So Taysom Hill at home against the Rams. Over-under is 48.5. Y'all saw the Rams run D against Barkley. Taysom's been getting a lot of TDs lately, so he's the natural thought. However, he's usually plus 150 to plus 180. That price is going to come way down. He had 3 touchdowns in his last game, and the Rams allowed 1,000 yards to Barkley the other night. So the number I'm looking for is plus 120 or better. I don't. If it's like minus 110 or 115, we got to change strategy. But if it's plus 120 and it's 25K to win 30K, that's the way I lean. However, I woke up this morning and I had a vision. I was like, my life is comfortable right now. Like I said, I'm not rich, but like if I lose this, I'm still doing good. When do you get a shot to go for the moon? And I realized, what about a Jamar Chase Taysom Hill parlay? Chase is playing Pittsburgh at home, which isn't the best matchup, but it is on turf, and Burrow's lava hot. That over-under is 48. If the weather report is good, Chase is usually like minus 110 on the touchdown pricing. He's not minus 180. So if Chase is minus 110, what about a Chase noon Taysom parlay? Probably be 25K to win like 80.
Wow. That would be something.
I think thinking about it out loud, though, winning 30K would do a lot for me. I'm not saying it wouldn't. It'd be an enormous thing. But when do you get this kind of shot? And if you're going to go down, Jamar Chase and Taysom Hill are 2 dudes to do it with.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are your guys. Shoot for the moon.
Yeah. And then, what if I do that and Chase scores and we're, looking at an 80K sweat in the Sunday?
That would be a hell of a
Are you going to be back for Sunday or not?
I will. Yep.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm gonna. We're doing a karmic. I'm glad you'll be back on the stream because we're doing a karmic giveaway to everybody on the stream to have a piece of the bet too. So.
Let's go. Cool.
Yeah. We're gonna pay it forward in the karma, so we're all rooting together.
Let's go. Cave bet. Love them.
Yeah. I gotta kill some of these false rumors about me being selfish here at Barstool.
We will not be in the cave on Thursday. Obviously, Thanksgiving. We did want to go over that slate. We're going to release this pod on Wednesday before the Thanksgiving slate. We'll go through it pretty quickly. There's not a ton of games. We got three decent games to look forward to. Let me pull up the over-unders for those. We got Chicago, Detroit 11-point favorites. 48.5 is the total. Giants, Dallas, which is going to be tough. That is the time you're going to want to have dessert, talk to the family, pay a little bit less attention to the TV. We got Dallas as a 4-point favorite, 37.5-point total. And then that game is solid. We got Miami versus, I wrote it down wrong.
Green Bay. Miami's at Green Bay.
Yes. Green Bay, 3-point favorite, 46.5 is the total. So Mincy, where are you leaning quarterbacks with this? We got Goff 6,500, Jordan Love 63, Tua 6K, Caleb Williams 5,300, Cooper Rush 4,800, and Tommy DeVito 4,500.
Yeah, and the reason we're doing the Thanksgiving is DraftKings is doing a huge Thanksgiving millionaire, and so we're going to go ahead and do lineups for that with this coming out on Wednesday.
Yep.
Look, I think when you look at this 3 matchup, Chicago, Detroit's the one I'm all about. Just Detroit's offense is hot. Caleb Williams at 330 yards last week looked a lot better in that game. I don't trust Green Bay. I mean, not Green Bay. I trust Green Bay. I don't trust Miami on the road in the cold. And I don't think there's anybody on that team I really want in fantasy except maybe Jonas Smith. So quarterback-wise, the 2 options to me are Goff or Caleb Williams. Goff 6,500. He's the safer pick. Caleb Williams at 5,300 because he can run a little bit. He might have like a higher upside just because he can run, and he looked pretty good last week, and he's cheaper. I think I'm going to roll Caleb Williams here and gamble. What do y'all think?
Okay. I like that. I played Caleb Williams last week. It was quite profitable. And typically what's going to happen in Lions games is the Lions are going to get up big, and you can get a lot of that garbage time passing yards. So let's see if Caleb Williams can cash on that. Moody, where are you leaning for Thursday?
So I actually have Caleb Williams in my lineup as well. At first I was looking at DeVito or Rush because, I mean, somebody maybe has to score points in that game, right? But Williams is only $500 more expensive than Rush in this spot. So, like, I feel like it's not that much more expensive. I will probably go with Caleb Williams as well. But there is a chance that I deep dive here and roll with Tommy DeVito, even though it doesn't feel very good.
Okay. I'm going to roll with Jordan Love, I think, 6,300. God, just throws touchdown passes. And against Miami team, this game could get a little frisky. I'm mainly worried about the blowout factor in both the early games. I think the late night game could be a little more competitive. So hopefully get some passing yardage out of Jordan Love and some touchdown passes. Running backs, top of the market is Devon Achane, 7,700. Jahmyr Gibbs, 7,500. Jacobs, 7,000. David Montgomery, 6,500. DeAndre Swift, 6,000. Tyrone Tracy Jr., 5,800, and then Rico Dowdle, 5,500, and a bunch of other backups mixed in there. Mincy, where are you leaning there?
And okay, so because it's a shorter slate, I'm spending the money, and I save money on Caleb Williams. I'm spending the money on Gibbs and Jacobs at running back. I'm just going top of the market on both. When you look, Gibbs is priced 1,000 more than Montgomery, but he should be. Montgomery doesn't get the receiving yards, and he's not as explosive. You know, the touchdown thing's similar. But I think Jacobs is coming off a 3-touchdown game. They're going to pound him. Man, I'm really, by the way, shout out to Green Bay's GM, because that was a bold move letting Aaron Jones go after all these years to get Jacobs, and it has worked out and then some. I mean, that move has really, really paid off. They caught Jacobs off a bad year too, but they gave him 4 years, $48 million, and a lot of people were like, whoa, you know, and that has been tremendous. So I'm going to go top of the market and go Gibbs and Jacobs.
Moody, where are you leaning on running back?
I've started Gibbs like 3 straight weeks. I'm going to start him again. It's like anytime he's at home on that turf, he's so electric. I think you have to put him in your lineup. And then I'm going Tracy Jr. probably as my number 2 right here. 5,800 against the Dallas defense. Who just flat out cannot stop the run. I don't think the Giants probably have a ton of confidence in Tommy DeVito. I expect them to try and run the football against a bad Dallas run D. Give me Tyrone Tracy Jr. at 5,800.
I like Tyrone Tracy. The Cowboys give up the 10th most rushing yards to opposing running backs. One I'd also look at to consider $5,500 Rico Dowdle. The Giants give up the 3rd most rushing yards to opposing running backs. Cooper Rush, not really the long-term. Obviously, Dak is out for the year. But this is a spot where they're at home. They don't want to get embarrassed. Thanksgiving is their thing, along with the Detroit Lions. So I think they're going to run the ball, and there's going to be a commitment to that. CeeDee Lamb not fully healthy. I mean, he's playing, but, you can tell he's not the same guy. And obviously the quarterback situation plays into that. But, he had the AC joint strain. And that's a, pain tolerance thing. So I think Rico Dowdle is in a spot to have a pretty solid week against, you hear about the Giants' run defense, and Dexter Lawrence is this great player. I mean, the Bucs just ran all over them. So I think Rico Dowdle is in a decent spot this week at price. But yeah, I mean, the more expensive guys certainly are more expensive for a reason. All right, let's go into the receiver market. Monroe St. Brown, tops the market, $8,000, the most expensive by far. CeeDee Lamb, $7,300. Malik Neighbors, $7,100. Tyreek Hill, $6,900. Jameson Williams, $6,100. We go all the way down to Kevontae Turpin at $3,300. Where are you going in with those guys, Mitzi?
Okay, so I spent the money on running back, so I'm going to have to pass on Amon-Ra, which I don't love doing, but I just overspent at running back. So I got to do it. The guys I'm looking at, whenever Jameson Williams is healthy, I always like him. He's like 6,000. He's one of mine. The other guys, so I think I'm going to take a shot on Rome Odunze here, even though he didn't have a great game last week. He's only 5,000. I think that he's a good price. I know DJ Moore. I was between him and DJ Moore, who had that big game last week and came on. And then third, I know he was a huge bust last week and dropped the 50-yard touchdown, but I still am going to roll Christian Watson at like 5K, 5,200 or whatever, because they're taking deep shots to him. I mean, if he had a 150-yard game 2 weeks ago, and if he would have caught that touchdown against the Niners last week, the whole narrative's different. So those are my three. I'm going with the receiver.
Moody, who you got?
I'm probably spending the money on Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I like Keenan Allen as well. I mean, Keenan's getting a ton of targets. I think he had 11 targets last week. And the main thing here is that Caleb Williams just needs to get rid of the ball quicker, and whenever he needs to get rid of it quicker, it's Keenan Allen that he's looking his way. So I like Keenan Allen, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then I also had Christian Watson as my third as well. And somebody else I would look at as far as a cheap receiver is concerned is Jalen Tolbert at 3,800.
Yeah, the Cowboys wide receivers with Turpin 3,300, Jalen Tolbert 3,800. Obviously, much lower price. We'll see how CeeDee Lamb plays it. For receivers, I'm looking at DJ Moore. Similar reasons as you guys. The Lions give the second most yards to opposing wide receivers. But then one guy I think is a play this week is Malik Neighbors, $7,100. I was at the Giants-Bucs game on Sunday, and he did not get the ball at all in the first half. And they asked him about it post-game, and he said, I'm not getting the ball at all. I don't know what you want to do about that. Asked Dabes. He's like, when I started getting the ball, it was 30-0. So I don't know what you want me to do. So I think this is going to be a situation, nationally televised game. They're going to force feed him. He is my wide receiver one this week on Thanksgiving.
I actually like that theory.
Yeah.
All right, tight ends. Let's go with the top of the market. Suddenly very hot. Jonnu Smith, $4,300. Sam Laporta, $41. Jake Ferguson, questionable play, $3,900. Tucker Kraft, $37. Cole Kmet, $36. We got some backups sprinkled on there for a little bit cheaper. Theo Johnson, a bit cheaper too. So who do you guys like? Mincy, I'll start with you for tight ends.
Man, I'm just riding this Jonnu train so hard right now. And I know I don't trust Tua in the cold, but I think Jonnu has such a role in that offense. And even if it's cold, the short passing game to the tight end is not going to really get hit. I think that affects Tyreek and Waddle more down the field. So I'm going to ride the Jonnu thing. But I will say, there are other good cheap options here. Jake Ferguson could be out, and Schoonmaker's been getting some targets at 3,400. And then Tucker Kraft also got in the end zone last week at 3,700. So there are some good cheap options. But Jonnu's just getting such a huge target share. He had 9 catches 2 weeks ago for 101, and I believe he had 7 for 71 last week. So, I'm going to ride it.
Yeah. Moody, who are you going with that tight end?
Tucker Kraft is my guy at 3,700. I don't think Romeo Doubs is going to be able to be healthy this week. He got knocked out with a concussion on Sunday. It's a short week. I don't think he'll be ready for Thursday. And that leaves Jordan Love with Tucker Kraft as his real security blanket. They scheme up a lot of stuff for Reed, but as far as the passing game is concerned, Doubs was the number one threat. And I think that Kraft is kind of going to take over that role. And as Mint said, he had a touchdown last week. They look for him in the red zone. I like Kraft at 3,700.
I'm also going to roll Tucker Kraft. The Dolphins give the most targets to tight ends and second most catches to tight ends. Tucker Kraft is a big play threat. Give me Tucker Kraft, $3,700. Defenses, we got Detroit, $3,500, Dallas, $31, Packers, $3K, Giants, $2,800, Dolphins, $27, and Bears, $23. I'll start with Moody. Who do you like on defense?
I've got the Giants at 2,800 just based on the pricing here. I would like to go with Green Bay, but I think I actually need to save that $200 as far as how I have my lineup currently constructed. So I'm probably going to go with the Giants here and just fading Cooper Rush, to be honest.
Mincy, who you got?
Man, I'm between the Cowboys and the Packers, but I'm going to go with the Cowboys. Michael Parsons is back coming off the edge, and DeVito's, I just think there could be turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Moody on this with the Giants. Like anywhere you can save some money, if you can. I think Detroit's going to be the defense to own, but at $3,500, I would kind of rather spend the money on the positional players on Thursday's slate. All right, let's jump really quickly into the Sunday slate, the classics. We're going to exclude the Sunday night game.
I have one more to add. I have one quick one to add. I'm sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to be rude. Flex, I went Kevontae Turpin at 3,300. And I also want to add, Turpin scored the last 2 weeks. He had that kick return spin move, whatever that was, and then he caught a long one on Monday night when he busted a slant. Turpin, 7-1 anytime touchdown in this game. They could run jet sweeps to him. He's in on the return game, and he catches an occasional pass. So 7-1 Turpin touchdown Thanksgiving. That's my
all right. I like that. Thanks. Or the Sunday slates, we're going to exclude the Sunday night game, San Francisco, Buffalo, and then the Monday night game, Denver, Cleveland. Let's get into the classic Sunday slate, and obviously the Friday Kansas City Vegas game is not included in this. Quarterbacks, top of the market, we got Lamar Jackson, 8,000. His opponent that game, Jalen Hurts, 7,700. Pretty big drop down to Jaden Daniels, 72. Joe Burrow, 7K. Another big drop down to Baker at 6,600. CJ Stroud, 64. Another big drop down to Kyler at 61. We go all the way down to Bryce Young, who's playing much better football at $4,700. Mincy, where are you leading quarterbacks?
I am going Kyler Murray at 6,100 at Minnesota. Minnesota's pass defense has been terrible. You saw Caleb just throw for 330. Arizona had a terrible offensive performance, but it was a rainy, weird NFC West game in Seattle. I think this is a bounce-back spot in the Dome against Minnesota. I think Kyler could run some, and he's going to sling it. So 6,100, I'm in on Kyler Murray this week.
All right, Moody, who are you going with quarterbacks?
So I'm looking at 2 quarterbacks, and they're playing in the same game. And one of them is Baker Mayfield, and the other one is Bryce Young. Bryce Young's coming in at 4,700. I've kind of been targeting this Tampa Bay defense the last few weeks with a lot of my lineups, and it's worked out fairly well. They did play much better last week against the Giants, but that was Tommy DeVito back there. And then the other guy is Baker Mayfield. He just slings the ball around the yard, man. I know they ran for a lot of touchdowns against the Giants, but I think that could break back Baker's way, get him and Mike Evans into the end zone this week. And by the way, Che, you had your bad Saquon Barkley take. I had my bad Baker Mayfield take. I thought he might be a bust at the QB spot this year. That has not been the case. That son bitch can play some football, and he's been a lot of fun to watch.
He's like a top 6 or 7 fantasy quarterback this year. So he's been very, very good. Mincy, who are you going with? Or no, you just did that. I'll do quarterbacks.
One thing on Mayfield, you win at MetLife Sunday. I know, Steven. The DeVito, when he ran it in and that touchdown and did the DeVito thing. Good moment.
Yeah, he said post game was a tribute to him. It didn't feel like that, but he said that they were friends. They hung out at the Super Bowl last year. But I love him. Guy plays with so much moxie. It's incredible. Quarterbacks, I'm looking at a couple guys. Lamar Jackson's 8,000 top of the market. I think this is just worth mentioning. He played the Eagles in 2020 before, obviously a much less refined passer than he is now. Went 16 for 27, 186 yards and a touchdown, no picks, 9 carries, 108 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He did play Vic Fangio in 2023 when Fangio was with Miami. This is pretty notable. Was 18 for 23, 321 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, 6 carries, 35 yards. I think the blending of those two is pretty nice for him in a Ravens offense that seemingly cannot be stopped right now. That's certainly one I would look at if you want to pay top of the market at quarterback and you have money. I think he's absolutely going to be the best one this week. That being said, I'm aligned with Moody on Kyler Murray, $6,100. He's played the Vikings twice, 2021, 400 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. 5 carries, 31 yards on a touchdown. 2022, 326 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, 6 carries, 36 yards. Obviously different, regimes as far as Brian Flores not being involved at that point. But Kyler Murray against the Vikings, this game could get explosive. The Vikings gave up a ton of passing yards to opposing quarterbacks, 5th most in the NFL. So I like Kyler Murray this week, $6,100 for DFS. But if you have money, obviously I like Lamar better. All right, running backs. My guy, Saquon Barkley, top of the market, $8,500. Joe Mixon, $8,000. Derrick Henry, the league's second leading rusher, $7,800 going against the Eagles. Alvin Kamara, $7,700. Breece Hall, $75. Bijan, $73. Kyren Williams, 72. Then we got Kenneth Walker, and it goes down at 7K, and it goes down by hundreds from there. Going all the way down, Gus Edwards at $4,300 could be an interesting play if J.K. Dobbins does miss time. We don't know the extent of that injury at time of taping. But Moody, who are you going with in the running back market?
So I'm looking at Alvin Kamara first off, 7,700. I just think he's going to be the focal point of the offense for the Saints this week against the Rams. He's coming off a bye as well, and Kamara's been dinged up much of the season. I think an extra week of rest is very big for him. Get him back healthy. I like him as my number one, and then number two is another Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Bucky Irving. He went bananas last week. My only concern is that it's now a three-headed monster in that backfield because Sean Tucker can play some damn football, and I'm worried about him, slowly but surely eating up some of Bucky Irving's touches. But I like Bucky Irving at 5,800. I think the Bucs are very aware of what they have. He's really talented, Che.
Bucky Irving was spectacular against the Giants. Career game for him, 151 total yards. Got in for a score. He did fumble. Sean Tucker fumbled around the goal line. So they talked in pressers this week about getting him involved early. I think he's our best between the tackles runner. Bucky Irving does a lot of stuff outside, a lot of zone runs, a lot of cutbacks, and he runs some stretch plays. Rachaad White, not the best between the tackles runner. So I think Sean Tucker certainly has a role there and could be the goal line back moving forward, but he did fumble, so we'll see where that picks up after this week. Mincy, who you got at running back this week?
I'm piggybacking off of Moody with the Alvin Kamara at 7,700. I know it's a ton, but you saw that Rams run defense is a mess. I mean, Kamara ain't running for 250, but he also in PPR, he's going to catch balls, he's going to carry it, and I think he gets in the end zone. That over-under is 48.5 in the Superdome. So I know he's expensive, but I'm spending it.
Yeah. I like he is more expensive, but one to look at is Joe Mixon, $8,000. I've talked about this for a while, but CJ Stroud splits as far as home and away games. He throws the ball for far less yards on the road. You got Joe Mixon going against a Jaguars team that gives the sixth most carries to opposing running backs. I expect Houston to be leading this game and to need to kill the clock, and Joe Mixon is going to be the guy to do it. $8,000 is certainly expensive, but I think he is a spot where you can spend money. And then, Moody mentioned Bucky Irving, $5,800. Panthers defense, not exactly elite. I think that there is some value there. And then, Gus Edwards, $4,300. If the Dobbins injury turns out to be a bad one where he's going to miss this week, I think he's an absolute auto play.
Yeah, my other one's Tony Pollard, 5,800 against the Commanders. Pollard's been Levis is looking a little better, and I think at 5,800, I mean, that's good value.
Yeah. All right, let's go over receivers. Mincy, your guy, Jamar Chase, top of the market, 8,600. AJ Brown, 8,300. Justin Jefferson, 8,100. Nico Collins, 7,900. Puka Nacua, 7,600. Cooper Kupp, 7,400. Then a big drop to Terry McLaurin, 7,100, and goes down by hundreds after that. You can go all the way down to the $3,000 range. You want kind of a super long shot, or low fours if you want somebody, a rotational guy. But Mincy, who do you like on the receiver market?
Well, the top, I spin on Kamara, so it's hard for me to spend at the top. But, man, I mean, I like A.J. Brown and Justin Jefferson this week. With Devontae Smith being banged up, A.J. Brown's target share is way up without Devontae Smith. And you saw it with 109 yards and a touchdown on Sunday night. Ravens allow a ton of passing yards, so he could have a big game. Justin Jefferson, man, he averages his stats in those home games in Minnesota, he averages 140 yards a game over his career in those dome games. It's crazy. But I can't get either one because I spent on Kamara. I'm rolling George Pickens, 6,800. That Bengals defense can't stop anybody. And all these Bengals games are shootouts. So I think him at 6,800 was one. A couple of the other ones I was looking at, Marvin Harrison is 6,000. I'm going to go a Collar Marvin Harrison stack here. Like Moody's been talking about the stacks. We both talked about why we love Collar this week. Maybe this could be the Marvin breakout. And then my third play was Ladd McConkey at 6,100 against an Atlanta pass defense struggles. We saw Bo Nix just torch him last week. McConkey's coming on. His target share's up, and this is full point PPR. And he's also a Georgia guy playing back in Atlanta. There you go.
Yeah, good call. Moody, who do you like receivers?
Well, I love Mike Evans. He's my number one on the board at wide receiver this week. Still a chance for Mike Evans to get to 1,000 yards receiving this year. If they throw him the ball enough. And they actually talked about this. Mike Evans addressed this, he would love to hit that number. I think this is a perfect week for them to get him the ball a lot. Mike Evans is my number one at 6,700. I'm also spending the money on Cooper Kupp here at 7,400 against the Saints defense. I just think that they're headed in the wrong direction. They've traded away some of their best pieces in the secondary. I think Cooper Kupp has a monster game. And then I mentioned I'm thinking about Bryce Young. So if I'm going Bryce Young, I'm looking at either Thielen or Xavier Legette as the number, or Leggett, however you say it, as the number 3 for me. He's coming in at 5,100. He had a role last week. Really seems like he's starting to build a rapport with Bryce Young now that Young is taking back over as the starter. So that's my kind of my deep dive. And then another one that I would throw out there is Marquez Valdez-Scantling for the Saints. All of a sudden, he's like the number 1 receiver there, and he's been getting the ball. He obviously had a huge game 2 weeks ago. I don't know if he can replicate that, but at 4,500, he is someone I may have to throw in my lineup.
Yeah. Agreed with you there. So Justin Jefferson, I think $8,100. I think he has a monster game. He put up 5 targets, 2 catches, 27 yards against Chicago. Looking at his game log for his career, he just does not put up back-to-back bad games. I think the lone one's in like week 17 and 18. The Cardinals give up the 9th most catches to opposing wide receivers. I think he has a monster game. In that game also, Mincy mentioned of Marvin Harrison Jr., the Vikings give up the 2nd most catches and most yards to opposing wide receivers at about 15 for 189 per game. So I think Marvin Harrison Jr., a guy who was bagging on to start the year, I think he has a solid game this week against Minnesota. And then if we're looking for a value play, how long is it going to take everybody to buy in on Nick Westbrook-Akina? He scored in 6 of his last 7 games. He's averaging 57 yards receiving per game over his last 5. Shout out to the Bussin guys. They put him in their touchdown parlay this week, and he obviously cashed his leg. So I think he's absolutely a guy you have to consider. $4,300 in this. If you want a super deep cut, Raheem Jarrett, $3,000. I think you could absolutely do worse for that. In a game against Carolina, where I'm hoping the Bucs are ahead by a bunch, and he gets in a lot more towards the end of the game. I think he had like a 30-yard catch this past week against the Giants, so he is one to watch. All right, tight ends. Trey McBride, top of the market, $5,800. The next most expensive is Taysom Hill, your guy's guy, $5,000. Evan Ingram, $4,800. Kyle Pitts, $46,000. Goes down from hundreds from there. You can get all the way down to Foster Moreau at $3,000. Moody, who do you like in the tight end market?
Well, Taysom Hill at $5K, it's just at this point he's just so much more than a tight end, and for $5K, I think you have to think about putting him in your lineup. The other guy I would point out is Cade Otton at $4,500. I think Baker's going to light up the Panthers. I think that's going to be the route to success this week for Tampa Bay, and I just think Baker's going to have a huge game. I think Mike Evans and Cade Otton will be the main beneficiaries of that. So I like Otton as well at $4,500.
Panthers give up the 2nd most receiving yards to tight end, so I like the Otton pick. Mincy, who you got at tight end?
So, hey, just want to shout out us. You know, we call us out when we're wrong, but this Taysom thing, he was 3,800 every week. Now he's 5K. Me and Moody,
Yeah.
I mean, you have been too. We've all been riding him every week. Look, I got to pay the money for him, but I'm riding him again at 5K. The whole offense runs through Kamara and Taysom. The Rams' run defense looks like their big Achilles heel. And with that high over under 48.5, I mean, I see no reason why Taysom Saints off a bye too, but Taysom's been banged up this year. Should be healthy. So I know I'm spending the 5K, but just Moody said it though, that just no one has the upside like he does. I mean, you know, you look at the last few weeks. I mean, he had an 88-yard touchdown call back against Atlanta, and then he had 3 touchdowns last game. So I'm in. He also caught 8. I think he caught 7 or 8 passes in that game, even though he didn't get like a ton of yardage for it in the last game too.
And he looks okay running routes. Like this dude, he's out there punt protecting, and then he's going and running good routes as well. Like he is truly doing everything on the football field right now.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the same page as you guys. Taysom Hill, $5,000. Trey McBride, if you have the money, $5,800. He's top of the mark for a reason. That game could get wild against Minnesota. Moody mentioned Cade Otton. One to consider also, Kyle Pitts, $4,600. A little bit more expensive, but the Chargers do give the 6th most targets to opposing tight ends. I think that is one to potentially look into. All right, let's go into the defense and special teams. We got the Bucs topping the market at $3,600 against Bryce Young and the Panthers. It goes down by hundreds from there, with Texans at $35,000, Commanders $34,000, all the way down to the Jaguars and Panthers both at $2,300. Mincy, who you got for defense, special teams?
I think I'm going to go with Houston, even though it's a little expensive, just because their pass rush is ferocious and the Jags are such a mess. Mac Jones. So I think I'm leaning Houston here.
Okay, Moody, who you got?
I'm looking. I kind of like the Chargers this week. I just feel like Atlanta is. I feel like they're headed in the wrong direction. I understand they're back at home. They're better in the dome. The Chargers on the road. We'll see. That's where I'm leaning right now. I also kind of like Arizona as far as the very bottom of the barrel is concerned. That's just if I'm trying to save money at 2,400. Arizona's defense has been better than people realize. They're playing pretty good football every single week. Like they were getting gashed all last season, gashed to start the year, but that has changed. They're playing good football. And if I'm trying to save the money, I think that's where I'm going is actually Arizona at 2,400.
I like the Seahawks, $3,200 going against a Jets team who I realize is coming off a bye, but just a horrible, horrible team. They cannot protect at all if they get behind in the game. Seattle's a defense that certainly could take advantage. All right, let's go last segment. Plant your flag guy of the week. Mincy, who is your plant your flag guy for this week?
I mean, it's boring and lame, but we're just going to keep – I'm just going to keep saying Taysom Hill until it goes wrong. And especially with the touchdown score thing, where with the DraftKings prices aren't out yet, we tape this, but there's a great shot Taysom Hill is involved in this 25K bet. So if there's ever a plant your flag situation, this is it. This is it. This is it. And tune into the stream Sunday. It's going to be on fire.
Moody, who you got for your plant your flag?
I'm willing to plant my flag with Mike Evans this week at 6,700. He had 5 catches, 6 targets, 68 yards last week. I think he gets in the end zone at least one time against Carolina. I'm going to have him as a 2-touchdown scorer on one of my props. I think Mike Evans is going to have a monster week here. I think he's going to try and get to 1,000 yards. I think him and Baker become boys, and Baker's going to try and get that for him. And I think this is one of the weeks, if that's going to happen, where he needs to have over 100, 150 yards. I think Mike Evans blows up this week. I've got him as my plant your flag play of the week.
Yeah, this one is not going to be as exciting. I think you got to go Justin Jefferson at $8,100. He's not going to have 2 stinkers in a row. But if we want to get a more reasonably priced guy, Kyler Murray, $6,100. I think you got to set your lineup around him in a game that could get wild.
I have one question, Shay. You're good on the matchups. Does J.C. Horn, is that a problem for Mike Evans at all?
Hasn't been in the past, no.
Okay. He shut down Olave once, is all I asked.
Evans used to have problems against James Bradbury and
Lattimore. Lattimore's long. That 6'2", that length, I think, was part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he's their only guy. Like at receiver, it's him, K. Dotton, and the running backs, and that's it. So
I'm going to look at Evans maybe in the touchdown thing after we talked about this and these prices come out, because he could be plus money this week after he didn't score last week, and I think he's definitely worth considering here too.
Yeah, the one thing I would note is that in pressers they said they would play Mike Evans, but if the game got out of hand, and they didn't need him, they would rest him. They didn't. Really
learning the Chris Godwin thing.
What's that?
Learning from the Chris Godwin. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know if he's going to get a ton of garbage yards, but Carolina's been pretty frisky lately, so we'll see how this one goes. But that is it. Have a good Thanksgiving. Best of luck to everyone playing DFS. Again, there's the Thanksgiving Millionaire Day Millionaire contest on DraftKings, and then we're going to be in the Pardon My Take AWL DFS League. You can catch us every Sunday. For the King of South Mincy, for Moody, I'm Stephen Shea. Hopefully, see you in the winner's circle.
Happy Thanksgiving. Goodbye.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.